How's it going, folks? You're very welcome to today's lesson on leaving cert regional geography, okay? And today we're looking at secondary economic activities in a subcontinental non-EU region, and that region is going to be Brazil, okay? So we must know primary, secondary, and tertiary activities in an Irish region, and an EU region, and a non-EU region, and the non-EU region is Brazil, which we are looking at today, okay? So uh, to answer a question such as this, you would need to first obviously name your region, which is Brazil. Second thing, state two factors that influence the development of secondary activities in your chosen region. So the factors we're going to look at are raw materials and government policy in Brazil. Okay, discuss how these factors influence manufacturing. Again, you're looking for probably five or six SRPs on each of those, and then give two, if not more, specific examples of the manufacturing that goes on. Okay, so give two examples of manufacturing that happens in your chosen non-EU region. Okay, so if we dive right into it, folks, the first thing we're going to look at is raw materials and how raw materials help manufacturing in Brazil. Okay, so the same like agriculture, manufacturing in Brazil is based in the southeastern states. So if you look at your map there, guys, okay, the kind of reddish area there is where a lot of manufacturing takes place, okay? And there's a number of reasons for this, okay? These states have many natural resources such as iron ore and limestone. Okay, iron ore is what they use to make steel. Limestone is an important material in the construction industry. Okay, and these are very, very important natural resources, and they're there's an abundance of them in this southeast area. Okay, the red area there in Brazil. Okay, in particular the states of Sao Paulo and Belo Horizonte. They have lots of iron ore and limestone. Okay, now if we move from land out to the coast there on the southeast. So if you're in that kind of red region on your map there and you decide to go for a swim there on the beach down along the southeast, okay, you'll come very close to something else, some other raw materials Brazil has that encourage the development of secondary activities. And these materials are oil and gas. Okay, oil and gas. And what this means is that lots of petrochemical industries are based in Rio de Janeiro. So that is lots of oil refining industries, industries that drill for oil, process that oil into petrol or diesel, and then and other things that are used in vehicles. Okay, so lots of petrochemical industries exist in Rio de Janeiro down there along the southeast coast. Why? Because there's oil and gas deposits there as well. Okay, now the tropical climate also helps in raw material availability, okay? In particular, sugarcane, okay? And why sugarcane? Because sugarcane needs a tropical climate, so it needs, think back to our agriculture guys, it needs about 20, 30 degrees heat. It needs about 2,000 millimeters of rainfall per year, which is the climate the southeast of Brazil gets. And this means that sugarcane is grown. And what is sugarcane used for? Well, sugarcane is a raw material that's used to grow biofuel. Okay, and the biofuel industry is huge in Brazil, and we're going to see on our next slide why that is. Okay, so you can see in the picture there a field of sugarcane, and that is being grown to make biofuel. Okay, which is it's basically just a more green economic version of fuel. Okay, so look back at sugarcane. This sugarcane is used to make ethanol, which is blended with oil to make something called flex fuel. Okay, what is flex fuel? Flex fuel is kind of like half oil, half ethanol, I suppose. And this type of fuel is way, way more efficient, and it's better for the environment. Okay, it reduces oil consumption, and as a result reduces carbon emissions, so it's quite environmentally friendly. Okay, Brazil is a world leader in ethanol manufacturing. Okay, and this ethanol has replaced almost half of Brazil's oil needs. So 42% of Brazil's oil needs have now been replaced by ethanol. Okay, and 70% of cars in Brazil use this fancy flex fuel. Okay, so this flex fuel, which is like kind of half ethanol, half oil. Okay, now why can Brazil produce so much ethanol? Well, we know ethanol is made from what? Sugarcane. And why can Brazil produce lots of sugarcane? Because they've got a perfect climate for it. They've got a tropical climate, okay? And this is ideal for sugarcane. So it's got very hot temperatures and also quite a lot of rain as well. Okay, so to recap, guys, secondary activities in Brazil, okay? What's the first thing Brazil has? Brazil has lots of iron ore and limestone, which are needed for the steel industry. Okay, what's the second thing Brazil has, particularly the southeast of Brazil? oil and gas, which are used for petrochemicals. Okay, so I suppose the manufacturing and production of petrol and fuel. Okay, what else does Brazil have? Brazil's got a climate that can grow sugarcane, and sugarcane is a raw material that's used to make ethanol, okay, which is a flex fuel. Okay, a flex fuel, you mix ethanol and oil together, you get a fancy flex fuel that's more environmentally friendly. Okay, the final thing that Brazil has in abundance is hydroelectric power. Okay, and this is a raw material because this comes from water. Okay, it's a material that's readily available. Okay, and hydroelectric power, guys, is basically when you've got, look at a picture there at the bottom right hand side of the slide. You've got a hydroelectric dam. As the water passes through the dam, what does it do? It spins turbines, okay, and those turbines generate electricity. And as a result, Brazil has got huge reserves of hydroelectric power. Okay, is this good for the environment? Absolutely. Okay, so water is a renewable source. That water is going to keep flowing through that dam, and it's going to keep spinning those turbines, and the electricity will hopefully always be available. Okay, and how does hydroelectric power help the manufacturing industry? Well, industries such as iron and steel manufacturing, again in the southeast, that need loads and loads of electricity, can set up near hydroelectric power plants. Okay, set up near hydroelectric dams. Okay. As a result, Brazil is now the second largest producer of hydroelectric power in the world after China. Okay, so Brazil have taken advantage of their vast rivers and lakes and built hydroelectric dams on them to provide electricity. Okay, so apart from, we've already looked at our first factor, raw materials, and how they influence secondary activities in Brazil. Okay, our second factor influencing secondary activities in Brazil is government policy. Okay, so this is what the government has done to facilitate the growth of manufacturing. Okay, Brazil is what's called a newly industrialized country. Okay, because of the government programs to develop manufacturing after World War II, the government started what was called an import substitution scheme. And what was this? This meant, guys, that Brazil was going to reduce its dependence on importing stuff from other countries. Okay, they are going to try and produce stuff in Brazil, produce stuff in-house. Okay, why to do this? Because this would generate jobs, it would be good for their economy, and they would save money because they don't have to buy stuff from abroad. Okay, so the aim was to produce goods in Brazil rather than import them from the US and Europe. So Brazil tried to become self-sufficient, okay? And this was through the plan, the import substitution scheme, and this was also through the idea that Brazil was now a newly industrialized country, okay? When did this come into place? After World War II, okay? Now, this program led to a large development of Brazil's car manufacturers, okay? Now, what else would help car manufacturing in Brazil? Ethanol. So we know that Brazil produces lots of biofuel, especially ethanol. Okay, so lots of new car manufacturers who are making cars that run on ethanol set up in Brazil. Okay, car manufacturing soon became a major industry in Brazil. So guys, look, Brazil, like say Sao Paulo in Brazil is one of the most congested cities in the world in terms of traffic, and that picture there kind of speaks 1,000 words. Okay, there are so many cars in Brazil. Okay, now the car market in Brazil used to be poor. So the 50s, 60s, and 70s, Brazil was quite a poor country, and there was only 1 in every 6.5 people could even afford to own a car. Okay, however, due to economic growth, the market for cars has gotten bigger. People are now wealthier, and more people can afford cars, which increases the demand for cars. Okay, and if there's an increased demand for cars, that's going to mean car manufacturing is going to increase. That's a knock-on effect. Car manufacturers are going to have to produce more cars to meet the demand. Okay, the government has also removed taxes on new cars. Okay, so this has encouraged manufacturers to come to the area. So the likes of Peugeot, Citroen, Renault, whatever, they have set up factories in Brazil. Why? Because there's no tax on making new cars, and there's no tax on buying new cars. So lots of people are going to buy the new cars, okay, from these manufacturers. Okay, what's the result of this? So what's the result of these policies to facilitate car manufacturing? Well, car sales have obviously increased. So in 2010 alone, car sales increased by 10%. Okay, and by 2011, Brazil became the 4th largest car maker in the world after China, Japan, and the US. Okay, So that's just an idea of how cars have grown. Why have cars grown? Well, the first reason is because Brazil became a newly industrialized country. They wanted to reduce their reliance on imports from the US and from Europe. Why else? Because Brazil's got lots of biofuel, in particular ethanol. Okay, so they grow sugarcane, which makes ethanol. As a result, they've got a huge ethanol reserve, which is which is used to make flexi fuel. Okay, as a result, there's lots and lots of flexi fuel cars and flexi fuel car manufacturers in Brazil. Okay, now apart from cars, okay, government policy has also helped to develop the textile industry, and the textile industry is basically an industry that makes fabrics. Okay, fabrics that are used to make blankets, clothes, curtains, you name it. Okay, um, Brazil today produces 3% of the world's textiles. So if you look around your house, any fabric in your house, whether it's bed sheets, clothes, whatever. 3% of the fabric in your house is probably comes from Brazil. That's how big of a textile manufacturer it is, okay? And the textile industry employs 2 million people in Brazil. So like almost half the population of Ireland would work in textiles in Brazil, okay? It's an absolutely massive industry. And they're worth 5% of Brazil's GDP, okay? So that's Brazil's gross domestic product, okay? And that's like kind of the amount of money that they make every year. Okay, so to recap, how has government policy helped secondary activities? Well, the import substitution scheme came in after World War II. What was the aim of this? The aim of this was to reduce Brazil's reliance on imports, to make Brazil more self-sufficient, okay? And what effect did this have? It had a big effect on the car manufacturing industry. Okay, number one, because Brazil was producing lots of its own ethanol that could make flexi fuel, and number two, because Brazil's economy was getting better, more and more people could afford to buy cars. Okay, as a result, car manufacturing increased by 10% alone in 2010. And Brazil is now the fourth largest car manufacturer in the world. Another industry that has thrived because of this is the textile industry. Okay, so because of Brazil's import substitution scheme, textiles have grown. So as you can see here in the picture, textiles, the making of fabric. Okay, and this fabric then is used to make anything and everything: clothes, bed linen, blankets, curtains, you name it. Okay. And again, Brazil produces 3% of the world's fabrics to this day, an absolutely colossal number. Okay, folks, thank you very much for watching. Keep an eye on the page for more videos.